he going at.
That's what he said. Brother Don. Peace, Don. What's good, man? All right, we on?
Another thing.
Not yet. Still waiting to boot up. You can keep going.
Huh?
You can keep going. Don't worry. It's already recorded.
We're audio recording, right?
Audio recording and it's actually recording video. It's just
Okay,
not live.
cool. Let's pop then. All right. So, first of all, I just want to thank everybody so far that's here. There's more fathers coming. You know, the goal was to have 40 fathers up here. I wanted this packed out where you couldn't even fit, and the whole point of that is to visually kind of counteract the narrative that's always pushed, which is a bunch of deadbeat dads. You know what I'm saying? And to be real with you, I know more good fathers than bad fathers. You know what I mean? And yeah, so that was the whole point, and to kind of counteract that narrative that's always pushed to us. But even for y'all coming right now, I just want to thank you for even saying yes and being here to have this discussion.
No problem.
For me,
Long needed.
yeah, long needed, especially for me, I'm a new father. My daughter's only 3, and so there's a whole lot. Like I look at Don, you just sent your daughter to college, right? I'm sitting here like, man, I feel like that's like lifetime away.
It's tomorrow. It's tomorrow.
It goes quick. So talk about that as far as like how quick fatherhood goes. What do you do to live in the now and to always try to absorb? And when did you start kind of realizing I need to grasp this now? It's gonna go by quick.
So,
You gotta grab the mic. Yeah. Because we're recording the audio. So.
you know, I thought about it, just how quickly time flies. You start realizing time flies. They're like born. Then the next thing you know, they graduating from middle school. And then you start saying, yo, you was just here. Like Kendall, I look at it now, it's 22.
Yeah.
And I said, you just got here. You know what I'm saying? So time, man, it just flies. And as you get older, you start realizing how quickly time flies. And you're like, yo, I can't play around. And then it starts getting more real because then your girl, well, for me, I got 2 daughters. You know, they start growing up, and then you start seeing the biological changes and all that stuff, and then you start understanding.
I remember a moment that you shared. I'm not going to put her on blast on which daughter it is. I just know that there was something that usually would be said to a mother was said to you. And you said inside, like outside, you were sitting here like, oh really? Oh okay, that's sweet. But inside, you were like,
yo, for real.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
So what did you do to keep that relationship where she can even come to you so openly about something that normally young girls don't go to their fathers about?
I think if all brothers invested their time at the beginning, and they'll realize how important it is, and it becomes that relationship. You know, and if you're there from the beginning and you're really there, then you start seeing it and you establish that rapport, and then it starts being real. And you start saying, "Yo, she really is." You really become her first boyfriend, her first man model.
Yeah,
absolutely. You know, because one of my daughters just told me recently, I went out on a date. Oh, this is live, right?
This is live, bro. I'm telling you. See, that's how good. That's good talk.
No, but you know, she said I went on a date. She said it didn't go well. I said why? Then later on, she said it's because of you. It's your fault.
Good.
And I was
Good
like,
job,
no.
bro.
Yeah, but you know what I'm
Actually,
saying?
Tony Robbins actually criticized that. There was a woman that was having issues getting a man or keeping her husband or something was going on with her. And he was like, you know, getting on the father for setting a standard, you know, that she now puts every man to, you know what I'm saying? And they're just not reaching it, you know, so it's funny that you bring that up. But, Don, I want to ask you, and everybody could take this, what does a father look like to you? What is a good father? What really constitutes a good father? And what does that look like to you?
I think that it's all, I don't know. Like, I think that's different for everyone. Like for me, I came into fatherhood when I was a sophomore in college, right? So I went to, I made it out the projects to get to college. And so, you know, my girl tells me she's pregnant, and I'm like, yo, okay, I came for a degree, not a degree in the baby. And so, but the interesting thing was, like the way that the school shaped the narrative of who were. And so when we went to the clinic, like on campus, she took the test and they said that she was pregnant. But they didn't give us any information on like going to see doctors or anything like that. They only gave us abortion information.
Oh, wow.
And so we were like, nah, we don't want that. And so they was like, well, no, just take it anyway. And we didn't want that.
Forcing that.
Yeah, so that's what they were putting, because I guess a number of the students who had gotten pregnant in the past, whatever, decided not to, to keep the child. And
So they just automatically thought, oh, you're going to get rid of it, right?
Yeah. So we like 19 at the time, and like that was my birth. Like clearly, it was my birth into fatherhood. And so at that point in time, it was like, all right, I can't go back to the projects, and so I got to do what I need to do and take care of my responsibilities. So I started working at night, 11 at night to 7 in the morning. Showered, and then I would go to class. Did that, and that's when I went to the military. And so for me, being a good father meant taking care of my responsibilities and showing a positive example of what a black man should be.
Yeah.
Now, the things that I learned later, because I have 2 boys, 2 girls. I have kids who are 20, 16, 12, and 11.
That sound like me.
No, you got 12, right? 13. We're going to get to you because I got so much to touch on.
He's quick with it, right?
No, I'm listening.
Nah, but so I think like you learn things over the years, and so real quick, and I'll shut up. But if you listen to Kendrick Lamar's new album, the song "Fear," right, and so if you listen to the song "Fear," where he repeatedly says, "I'll beat your fucking ass,"
Yeah.
I'll beat your fucking ass.
You
If
stole
that-
it.
Right?
Yeah.
And so this whole idea, a lot of times what happens in black families is that we want our kids to fear us, right? And we think that if we put fear in them, then they'll go the right way. And I think I fell into that like earlier on. Then I was like, this serves no purpose to have my kid fear me, because if they can't come to me and talk to me about anything, then I'm doing something wrong, right? And so to me, it wasn't about fear. It was about like, this whole idea of unconditional love. No matter what happened, like, you might get in trouble, but I'm going to be there for you. You don't have to fear coming to me, because I'm the person who helped to bring you into this world, and I'll provide for you and I'll do whatever. And so I think that's what we have to kind of get to, the understanding like this unconditional love, not instilling fear in our children.
So that's one of the main things that I would say that I definitely grasped from you. Watching you when you told me that story about when she came to you, I was like, man, I want to be that dad that my daughter comes to me.
Comfortable enough to talk.
Absolutely, right. So to do that, to be in that place, I felt like I have to be even more emotionally available. You know what I'm saying? And in tune.
What I want to say, I just want to kind of chime in with what Don was saying. The reality of it is, for me, is as a child, you're talking about 2 or 3 years old, the conversation is limited in such a way, not all the way, but it's somewhat limited. So the fear factor is not a point where you keep it there. I think we coming up, our parents drowned it. I mean, they drowned in the fear factor, because really, let's just talk about even the condition as an African American coming up. This is how, and psychologically, coming out of the condition that we were in, that's how they thought they were supposed to raise us. As children, instill that fear. That's how we was going to listen. So, yeah, we got to defrag that. But as a child, I think that's important. Coming up out of that as they get older, it's supposed to be a drawback.
So you think that there's a moment in bringing up the
There's
child
got to be
as
a
a
reverence. I don't like to say fear, but like a reverence. Like when my father came in the room, I feared my father, but I loved my father and I respected my father. And it wasn't that my father was abusive. It was the fact that, Dad meant what he said. That's just what it was. And so if I tell you once, that's all I need to tell you. So, but I think we got stuck in that because with the inability to articulate and to really conversate with our children, that's all they knew. And so now I'm a young man now, and I got my chest sticking out now, so I might try it.
So we've seen for so many years the issues that we would say that surround absent fathers, right?
Yes.
But we've also seen many of us come up from
a product of it.
And been fine. So what exactly? No, there's a lot of people that have been fine.
I don't think you're fine.
Okay. So all right, that's good.
I would concur with that.
Yeah. So let me. That's actually
Nudge
around
to
the.
adjust.
That's around the question I want to ask. what is missing from a child's upbringing when the father's absent? What is missing?
I mean, I'm not gonna like talk about that, but like I think like one of the things that we say, like we like, yo, I turned out just fine, right? Like I got beat like when I was younger, and like I made it. I turned out just fine, so I can do that to the rest of my kids. But we didn't turn out just fine, right? And so as we start to peel back the layers, like parenthood, we can curse, right? People curse.
Yeah, we curse.
Effed us up, right? Like parenthood, like effed us up. Like and so when we say, you know, I turned out fine, like and so even if you were a product of a household where you were raised by your mother, you made it successful, you said turned out fine. You did, but there's something that's still sitting there, right? There's this gap, like there's something that's missing, and like you've learned to cope, but I don't think that we're fine, right? And so I think when we say that we're fine, we push ourselves away from this whole idea of being vulnerable, right? Like in understanding hurt, and like I admit, so I've gone to therapy. My parents took me to therapy when I was younger because I had a temper, right? And so they were going to label me as like this aggressive dude, but they were just like, yo, just put him in martial arts. And so that's what they did. And so that took that out. But in talking with like the therapist, you start to unpack this stuff, right? And so the fear of my father and what he thought about me made me an overachiever in some ways, right? And so we can say that I'm fine, but like those things that we do in parenting and the things that we receive in parenting, it plants certain seeds, and those can be negative or positive. And so I think the whole concept of I turned out just fine needs to be kind of broadened.
Yeah. Well, for me, I think it was a little different because I grew up in a household. My mother raised all three, and even though my pops was living in a close distance, he was very distant.
Mm-hmm.
So my opportunity when I became a father, I looked at it as he gave me the blueprint at exactly what not to do.
Mm.
So I think more or less that's what drives me to be like, I can't go that route. I got to be the best father I can be, and I think that's what keeps me going every day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, matter of fact, I had so much to say, but but not everybody would think just like you. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
a lot
Turn
of
my
us
negative into a
here,
positive.
yeah, a lot of us here can like obviously we probably seen what our fathers like wasn't doing, and we like, well, we're not going to do that. But it's a lot of guys out there that's still doing the same thing, and it's like a revolving thing over and over and over. So it's like not everybody's going to think the same. It's like, look,
Oh,
I'm not
definitely.
going to do exactly.
But the one thing that I had up on everybody was I was raised by a village. I had uncles. I had older people in the hood that I can talk to that helped mold me. I had older brothers. I got guys that I consider my brothers that molded me. Because I was always the youngest out of everybody I hung with. So those were the ones that stepped in and played that role as a father figure, big brother, uncle.
That's
And
big.
I needed that.
That means a
But
lot.
But you know what? Though the other thing of it is, if we never learn how to be a son, how can we ever be a father? Because what I'm saying is that if my father left, he never gave me the opportunity to really be. He left when I was 14, so there's some underdevelopment that was there, and I took whatever I had and utilized it. And of course, everything I said I didn't want to be like my father, I wanted to be like my father.
Yeah, because I've heard that saying, like, whatever you try not
You know
to
what
be
I'm saying?
like, that's exactly
so,
what you become.
So what I'm saying is that, but sonship, man, is so important. I'm just talking about the male factor, not with the children, of course.
Why is it? What makes it a difference though with
the male?
Yeah.
Because the mirror is there, bro. That's the identifying piece for me. The female is we guard our babies, our girls. That's my dad. That's my father. He got me, protect me. The boys feel the same way, but there's an image going on here, dog. And if I ain't got a mirror in front of me to reflect from, bro, that's going to impede on something in my development. You know what I mean?
All right, so I just want to kind of chime in on a lot of stuff that's been said. So let me start from the beginning. First of all, I think what it means to be a father is to be present, first of all, and to be consistent.
Define that.
There
Yeah,
is.
we got
Define
to
that.
You gotta be with your kids, and I think what a lot of us are touching on but not really saying is there was no rubric, there was no ledger to tell us how to raise our kids, and so we were just pulling from anywhere to try to get by. But at the end of the day, I think deep down there's an instinct, right? You protect your children, you know that, right? Anybody who doesn't know that tends not to be a good parent. But at the end of the day, every last one of us in here, would die for our kids before we saw something bad
Absolutely,
happen.
for sure.
So you got to be
Believe that.
present. You got to be present to address the danger, but then you got to be prepared to protect, right? And then from there, our ultimate goal is to teach them what to do and what not to do. Learn from our mistakes so that they can make it a step further than we could or more, right? So our goal is to mold them, right? Learn from where we went, because most of our experiences shape what we do, who we are. You know, Don touched on it, and it took me a while. I got 4 kids. My oldest is 15, and with him, it was the fear factor until I realized I only needed fear until I could communicate with him.
Yeah.
Right? Because when he was a child, for me to tell him, no, don't touch the stove, it'll burn you, he won't understand that until he feels something. Kids associate pain with no, they get it, right? But when he got to an age where I could talk to him and rationalize it, I'm like, listen, son, you can't do this, and he understands from my words, then you could draw back that fear. But you have laid a foundation where your kid understands, like you were saying, father is father. In my house, you know, my wife tells me that, you know, I'm an iron fist. And it's not so much the case, but I operate in a manner where I need y'all to know who I am. I'm the authority figure. I'm not going to be a dictator, but I do need you to understand my word is my word. And so they need that authority because children thrive on authority. Children need direction. They don't know which way to go. You turn a kid loose, he's going to do anything. And so as a father, you have to be present, you have to be a protector, and you have to give direction. And I think when you master those 3 things and you also offer the love, that, you know what I mean, that compassion, you've rounded the game out. Now there's going to be nuances that everybody's game is going to be different. Your son might be different than my son in some aspects, and then there's some things that you can do the exact same thing. And so with all that being said, I just think really there are basic principles to being a parent, and then there's the fundamentals that you got to figure out for yourself, and that's what makes life life.
For sure.
And that, you know what I mean?
And I think sometimes, and I think I said this before the last series I was at. Growing up, and I recognized this later, that I was grew up without my father at a certain point in my life, but there was that blueprint that I couldn't read, and I heard that, you know, being used, and so then we out on the streets and we talking to other fatherless brothers, getting direction. So what does he mean? And then he give me the, you know what I'm saying? So we get so we have that, and that's kind of, you know, where we get misguided and misled.
Yeah, you know.
So I wanted to just bring in a question and move the conversation move the conversation to another angle. So what about as far as the system? You know, everybody here is a great father, but we also know a lot of fathers that are re-entering after being locked up, trying to establish relationships with their kids. The way I see it, this is just me, conspiracy theorist, but I see it as just like with the 13th Amendment, and they wanted to somehow keep the slaves, so they started maneuvering some words around, just like with the crack cocaine epidemic and using that as another way to break the families, and knowing that the racial disparity with crack cocaine sentencing was going to affect black people more. You know what I'm saying? I feel that's the same way with the system itself when it comes to the black home, when it comes to whether it's child support, whether you're re-entering from the prison system. Now, I could be wrong, because there's a lot of stuff I don't know. Don, I definitely want you to chime in on that.
Can I make a comment?
Yeah.
I just want to say something. Don't fear child support, and I'll tell you why. At the end of the day, if you are a good father, you're going to spend money on your child anyway. While child support is an ugly system, first of all, on the flip side, any mother who takes you to child support is making a foolish call, because 90% of the time they don't even send them the money. They'll make them wait, and then the mother get tight with you, thinking you ain't paying it, and it causes confusion. I've lived it for a long time. This woman would call me. I told her, they see their money before Uncle Sam see his tax money. You got paid. If they not giving it to you, that's not on me. But what it does for the fathers is it gives you leverage. If you know, the problem is a lot of us don't know terminology. So we go to court and we get slammed. We got to pay child support. Then they give you a schedule when you can see your kid. I had to do Blaney Bostic. Shout out to Blaney Bostic. He took me under his wing and he schooled me. He said, don't fear child support. He said, you a father. You're going to take care of your kid, right? Of course I am. What child support does is, God forbid you're in a gym and you ain't got no extra money, you have contributed to your child, 1. 2, joint custody and liberal visitation are your friends. You go to court, if you pay child support, they have to honor that. So now she can't deny you from seeing her child because you have a court order with child support. If she denies you seeing your child, she is in contempt of court and runs the risk of having court consequences. And you are allowed to see your child. She can't take your child and run. Because, some mothers will pack up and leave. They try to leave the state, they find a new boyfriend, they throw to play a jealousy game. So child support, if you know how to maneuver the lingo, can be your friend. You go and pay the money anyway as long as you're trying to be an upstanding father. And it just, you got to find the benefits to it.
So, but I think with the other part, right? And so, like, with your conspiracy theory, right? Like, we talk about, like, this whole idea of, like, child support being set up to destroy the black family. Like when we were talking earlier today, like, child support is a symptom of a problem, right? And so there was a breakdown in the family before child support was needed, right? Child support is an after, right? And so we have to talk about, like, what broke down in the family before child support. Child support doesn't destroy the family. Like, there was a rift in the family before the child support was ordered. So I think that's how we kind of. I just don't think that child support was made to destroy the black family.
And even if it's so even if it's not, so I was speaking to a friend of mine who works for DCF, and she was like, I gotta pick up a father, and I gotta observe their visit, And I asked her, I'm like, is he a good father? She's like, yeah, he is really a good father. He just doesn't know how to be a father. And now he has this, this thing over his head where he has these visitations and he has to get that right. And it kind of led me to wonder, and all right, so you popped up your hand right away. I was like, hey, so you're a good father, but you don't know how to be a father, and now technically you're in the system. Help me make sense of that. I know you seem confused. You put up your hand immediately, so.
Well, I'll say this. The thing that people have to understand is that all the issues that we're talking about, we say that they're systematic issues, right? It's because we don't know how to address them. If you're saying that your friend said, yeah, he's a good father, but he doesn't know how to be one, the problem that we have at the baseline level is you can recognize that and speak that to somebody else, but you won't turn to this brother and tell him what he needs to do to be a good father, right? The thing and the points that we were talking about earlier is this. It's not just fear, it's not just things like that. It's everything that we've learned from different resources in our life shaped who we are as a parent. The problem that we run into, not only is presence number one, but we as black men have to continue to evolve.
Yes.
That's how you get your child to be a better person than you were.
Yes.
Because if you're not evolving the conversation, if you're not evolving yourself, if you're not peeling back the layers, because again, a lot of people don't understand, and I say this to people all the time, and I say, it's really hard to be a man. And they say, well, why do you say that? Look at all the things that they tell you should do as a man. You shouldn't cry. You shouldn't share emotion. You are supposed to be protected. You're supposed to be a provider. If you're in a position where you can't do any of those things, mentally, what does that do to a person? So if I can't be that, I have no other choice. But it's because nobody else taught you the other side. That you can be emotional. That you can be vulnerable. That you can ask for help. Because if you're raising a child, these are the things and the lessons that you're supposed to be giving them anyway. Because how does your daughter come to you if she never knew to ask for help?
Right.
You understand?
And the other thing,
This brother, yeah.
The one thing I think that, and it just is that cultivation has to play a lot into fatherhood. We have to cultivate fatherhood into families. Because if we're saying that the one thing is, like you said, presence. Well, what happened with presence? If you have no father there's no cultivation of anything of the family. Because it's hard for the mother just to be the mother because she's trying to be the father figure and the mother figure. That's ridiculous because there's no way a woman can actually tell her son how he feels about his body.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And there's no way a woman can tell her daughter how a man is supposed to approach her. That's what the father does. He cultivates the whole family setting. So when you're missing that, you pull that out, then you're missing both sides, not just the protector of the daughter, but on how she should be treated. Now she can understand how a man's supposed to treat her because the father is there as a man, knowing how he's supposed to treat a woman. And as the son is also saying, that's how I'm supposed to be in the house. So it has to be cultivated. And I understand what this brother here was saying about before, about the fear factor, not being okay. But at some point, you have to turn on that switch to say, you know what, I'm okay with it. I don't have to be okay as far as like, but I'm okay now with how I'm turning out and how I'm dealing with my children now. Because if I'm always going to go back and be like, you know what, I can't go this route because my father, you know, is this way, whatever, then I'm not going to really be the best father that I possibly can be. So I have to be what I want to say. I have to be I don't want to say brave or anything, but I have to
Embrace it.
Yeah, right. There you go. I have to embrace all that, because what that's going to do is going to help me be the best father I can possibly be to my son and to my daughter, because I both got to shape these young lives. They're going to go different ways, but I have to shape these lives in order that I know when they leave the house that I did all that I possibly could have done to prepare them for the outside the house. Forget about inside the house, because inside the house, like you said, I'm the authority head inside the house, but I also got to prepare them for outside, because I'm not the authority head outside the house. But I have to make sure they make those right decisions that, well, I think that's right for me, that they made those right decisions in their life that I can say, you know what, then I did do a better job than whoever was trying to. You know what I mean? So it's that cultivation that I believe that has to be. You know?
And I just want to say back, just get back to what Scholar was talking about, the reentry, brothers coming out of prison.
Yeah.
Which is very important, and I like to say a lot of brothers that are coming back into the lives of their children use it as a harness. And I say a harness because it gives you an opportunity to become responsible, so that you won't get distracted with all the other things. Fatherhood is really something that helps man develop into his full potential, because it gives you a responsibility. Even for brothers that got grown children, if you're struggling, I mean, even right now, we got a lot of fatherless children running around right now. So to take on this spirit of adoption, even in your mindset, that I got to be an example for another young man, or I got to, you know what I'm saying, live a life that's going to help encourage them.
Or helping that young man.
Well, either way.
Learn how to be a
saying,
father. Because to be real with you, you know, when I stepped into fatherhood, I had examples of my peoples that had kids. You know what I'm saying? But to actually show me anything of fatherhood, not at all.
Well, first of all, I think, again, we got to really understand what's the blueprint. What is the blueprint really for fatherhood when we look at all the experiences and the achievements and the failures? What is really the blueprint?
A lot of times it depends on what you actually monetarily provide.
No, but that's what the system tells you. But
system, but also society.
But there's just in human, and I just believe in human nature, in the male factor and the female factor. In every man, there's a principle of fatherhood. In every woman, there's a principle of womanhood, and that only comes in is developed when you accept and say, I consciously take on this responsibility that's going to challenge me. A man is not a man, and he's neither could be developed fully if he's not challenged to take on responsibility. Or whether it's a wife, whether it's children, or anything else, whether it's a community, whether it's me being an example, that impedes your development as a man. So them brothers coming out of prison, that's been really, they could look at it from a negative perspective, or they could look at it from a positive perspective and say, first of all, I'm going to humble myself and respect the woman that I'm going to have to encounter with that has been holding it down in my ass.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Well, and real quick, I want to acknowledge Diari, who has an event this Saturday, right?
Yes, sir.
Real Fathers Matter. It's going to be a dope event. If you're not doing nothing, bring out your families. I saw you do it last year. Wasn't able to make it, but I got my daughter this time around, so I'll be there. But shout out to you for even starting that, because nobody, while everybody was trying to get a club popping, you know, you were getting that too. No, that too, but you got that too, and that's what's up. But you wanted to touch on that.
Yeah, well, I'm really just trying to take everything in and catch up. Brother being as well. But to get to the blueprint, I don't feel like there's no blueprint to being a father. Me personally, it's too many generations of lost fathers to figure out. First of all, we came here through force. We don't know our true religion. We don't know our true language. We don't know a lot of things. They did things to us to humiliate it for our feelings. So we gotta understand, if you want to think of breakup and we're starting, these things go way back.
Way back.
400 years ago.
Yeah,
So
speak to the mic.
So that's something we can't really can't deal with that right now. That's out of our hands. So for me, I just look at it like the blueprint to being a good father is more so showing love, affection, giving things you never had. Like I said, I never had a father. I never had any positive role models around me, but I needed. You know, I know a lot of people that probably had the blueprint. They had perfect parents, and they're nothing. They're nothing to their kids, or they're not even successful. So we can't say we could be the best parent, give them everything they want, and they still want to turn out good. That's not necessarily true because I got friends and I'm a product of it. You see what I'm saying? So for me personally, like I said, I go back on your point. The father is the main factor in every family, regardless to what, like he was getting to. Because how to treat a female, even a guy father, a guy to be a man.
And I want to touch on that too, as far as you're about to say something. Just as far as families, Ash, I wanted to talk to you about because I know there was a definitely important time that we spoke, and you were really big on promoting the idea of being married. You know what I'm saying? And having the whole family, Kyle, you as well. But before we move from the re-entry topic, we all know brothers that are going through it right now, dealing with that. And I wanted to challenge what Pastor Lewis was saying about your perspective. It's real easy to talk about, have a positive perspective when you are dealing with the pressure of, number one, being told, where's my money? You don't have it at all. It doesn't even look like it's coming in sight at all. Where the mother is, crazy, you know what I'm saying, or spiteful, putting the kids against you. And then meanwhile, you got the system, you're dealing with a felony. You know what I'm saying?
That's behavior from the system.
Yeah, go ahead, but come on, Driz.
Yeah, drop that gym right
Yeah,
there.
go ahead, Driz.
Come on.
And Driz, if you can, speak to it from a perspective like you speaking to some brothers right now.
Yeah, the women, they're taught from different things, from the new reality show. We could go back, like he was saying, there's so much, it's like 400 years of things that messed us up so much that we can't really go back and backtrack things. But, the woman was taught to act that way because they don't want, some people feel like the feminist movement kind of got in the way in the mid-60s and it created a whole bunch of instability. And if you kind of look at things, you think of how the woman in the 60s was before, and then you look at the woman now, you're talking about a completely different situation. You understand what I'm saying? So, that creates issues with us parenting with our kids, because
They're gatekeepers.
yeah, they're in control.
Like
Society had engineered it where the women are in control of the child, and they make it where women can't communicate with us.
But what do you, I'm going to get to you 1 second, bro, but what do you really say to, because when you left, I was challenging your view on, relax.
You can't say challenge.
I know, not to
him.
It's a challenge.
But why when I left though?
Come on, man, put your ego out. That's your ego, though. Come on,
He
man,
was about to
stop.
go, let's
Right.
It's like into the dojo.
Challenge. So, what I'm saying is that, and Driz, I wanted you to expound on it, but that it's easy to say, look, you got to change your perspective, for the brothers that are trying to re-enter and trying to transition. You know what I'm saying? It's easy to change the perspective, yeah, but at the same time, man, when you are actually in and I know you've been there, when you're actually in that situation, in that moment, there's no money in sight. Daughter or the child's mother's crazy. The felony's over your head. You don't know what you're doing with your life. You're getting older.
But
Where do you? But what would
I
be?
could be your third strike.
But hold up. But before you challenge that, look, he trying to already go in.
No, because
I'm just saying that part. So Driz, in that situation, what would you say to brothers? And if anybody wants to even also give insight, what would you say to brothers who are actually dealing
I
with
think
that?
two things, man. One of the main things, and I know you can't never take nothing back because you gotta watch you got kids.
Brother, that's the first thing.
That's first and foremost. This is what y'all know.
For real.
Wait, hold up. Hey, but the other thing,
Let him get to the second point.
I forgot to say,
that was it.
You gotta watch who you have your kids by, and then you
That's a
also
lot.
gotta look into alternatives. If you can take the child, I got my oldest child. I raised myself. You understand what I'm saying? But when I got out of prison, but you gotta
How'd you do that? How did that even?
listen. You gotta do what you gotta do. You know that they might not like it, but you know, hey, you know, some things fall the right way. My situation probably fell the right way. You know, somebody, but I had to, you know,
You
handle
had
it
to
a
fight
certain way.
it.
Yeah, you know, they called the police, you know, at some point and all that. But hey, it is what it is. You know, you gotta figure out. Every situation is unique, so you have to figure out your situation. You gotta figure out the female you're dealing with. And because a lot of these chicks, some of them, they just don't want the responsibility. You know, it's a lot of men. A lot of times when we're not present in the child, sometimes it's just because some of these men, they don't want the responsibility. So parents, period, the ones that are absent or not doing their job is because they don't want the responsibility because nobody never taught them or they never seen an example. You know, a lot of black men, we never seen an example of a man. I remember at some point in my life, most of the men that I knew over a certain age, over 30, was on drugs. You understand what I'm saying? So you don't get to see a positive
that's
role model.
systematic.
You know, you don't get to see a positive role model to know what it's like to be a real father. So, you know, the women are starting to deal with that now. You know, they're not seeing the mothers. The mothers is like 15 years older than them.
Grandmothers
They
are
go
raising.
out together.
Grandmothers are now
I know
raising.
this
I saw a
But-
grandmother with a tent.
But let me say this though, and let me just say, being that you challenged me, would never use that word. You know what I mean?
I know.
At the end of the day, y'all, come on, y'all. Everybody got their own story, true, right? But dog, man, at the end of the day, bro, no matter what's on you, scholar, and there's no magic wand that could be waved, brother, and things go away. You gotta dig deep, man. What happened has already happened.
Right.
Now I'm gonna tell you right now, for me was my faith. Now you ain't got to believe in nothing. I don't care what you believe or don't believe in, but you got to grab something because the conditions are too horrific in order for you to think that you're gonna challenge it head on. Brothers are not compassionate enough to really give you a push to say, man, I got you. Let me help you through this. Because everybody trying to do their own thing. So at the end of the day, either you gonna champion up and grab something that you can really start to stand up with, or you gonna be succumbed, brother, by the conditions. That's just real talk.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We going back and forth, but real talk, you gotta dig, baby. I'm taking the harness, and that harness is responsibility and becoming a parent and do whatever I need to do that's right to help make that work.
So, but Jay, can you? I mean, I think it's interesting because like we're talking about like this fatherhood narrative, and it's like we're talking about fatherhood and absence, right? So, can people speak to what it means? Because we talked about the need to be present, like the need for us to be present, right? Because one of the things that saved me, like growing up, like I grew up in Harlem, in Harlem. Right? So this is during like the height of the crack cocaine epidemic. And so the difference between me and a lot of my friends, one, my parents didn't get hooked on crack, right? And so that's how I survived. And two, my father was in the household, right? He didn't finish high school, nothing like that. He had odd jobs here and there, but he was in the household. We didn't have the best relationship, like throughout that whole time of growing up, but he was there. And so when I think about my boys who I write letters to who are in prison, dads weren't there, right? And so the fact that my father was there, even though he wasn't a perfect example, that mattered in some way. And so I think it would be interesting to hear brothers talk about what it means to be there, because we're talking about what it's like to grow up in the absence of, but the importance of what it means to be there and what that does to the future of that child.
Good. Yeah. I want to do one, two things. I want to go back just for 1 second on what this gentleman was saying here, because I know I've told fathers who've come out of prison and getting back in the system. I asked them one question, who had kids. How much do you love your kids? Because if you're going to say you do anything for your kids, then it doesn't matter what the system is trying to do to us, or what the mother's going to do, because you're going to do anything you possibly can to be in that kid's life, so they won't walk down that same road that you walk down. It's all about how much you love your kids, all right? And to what you were saying just now, you're right, because I take on. I got 7 kids, all right. And
You talking about cultivating the
and
No, I said, be fruitful, multiply.
Okay, and so I've been in their lives since they were small.
Right.
Okay, all right. So the thing about it is that already, even if they don't even have to like me very well, you know what I mean? But already I've seen their lives as opposed to where my life was without my father being there is totally different. Okay, the way they go about handling their business, they're not out drinking, they're not out smoking, they're not trying to hang out all types of the night with their friends or whatever. They know what time they come home, they know what time they gotta be home or whatever. They know that, there's certain things that they have to do in order to go somewhere. Certain, there's things that they know, they understand because I'm there. Just imagine if I wasn't there. My oldest son, 24 years old, I got away from that because I was younger when he was young. He ended up in the system. That was his choice. Because he had the same teaching, the same ministry that the other kids had, but that was his choice. All right, so at a point in time, as a man, as us being men, we make a choice. We make a choice on whether or not how much we love our kids and whether or not we're going to be in their lives all that time. I made a choice. And with those kids, I made a choice to be. I made a choice
Even
to
the
be
one
their
that
dad.
wasn't
The one
biologically.
that my biology
That's
doesn't even
powerful.
matter. Those are my kids. No,
And that
their
nigga
mother is
still
my
that father,
wife, but
that
guess
figure,
what?
that
Those
man.
are my kids. Even
That's what's up.
when their fathers, even
And
when
they
their
work.
fathers
You see
show
what
up,
I'm saying?
they know that those are my kids,
Right.
because they understand that I'm in the house. I'm the one who's cultivating and shaping and molding what they think, how they move, on the outside or whatever. Even how they look. You know what I mean? That's going to be me. I'm not trying to poke my chest out or anything like that, but this young man going there. It's important for if you're going to be there as a man, and you're going to, it's very important because that makes a difference between if they're going to be out in the street or going to school.
But even if they wind up going to the street, what did they have? What did they have? They still had something to chew on. I can make a decision because I know what it
my
was.
24-year-old right now, the first thing he did when he
You know what I'm
got
saying?
out was he called me. So he didn't call me while he was in there because he already knew what I was going to say. He called me when he got
Still
out
had that
to let
balance.
me know
That's what's
that
up.
he was out, so he can get. So now what do I do? You see what I'm saying? Now I messed up. He would say, "You apologize. I messed up." Now what can I do to get myself straight? And that's good.
So I want before Kyle leaves, and I want to still stick with Don's question, and I want to come back to you because you got 20 kids. That's how when I hear 7, I hear 20. You know what I mean? Because
You
I'm sorry.
just officially took the mantle off me, bro.
Yeah, he was at 12. You bumped it up. But I want to talk about like what it means to be present, right, and what that looks like. Kyle, like, how do you balance? I want to hear like, what does it look like for you to be present as a father, but also tricks, tips, how you balance? Because a lot of my tricks and things I got for parenthood came from women.
But
Women were like schooling me, like, yo, you can do this.
But
you
here's
can
the
do
thing,
that.
right?
I'm like, oh, word. Okay,
And
that's
a
good
hit
for
or
the
miss thing.
parenting. Okay.
I say hit or miss thing only because what I learned and all the kids that I got is the tricks that worked for Cam didn't work for Kyla. So I thought I had it figured out. So I'm like, listen, my first son was mild mannered. He was easy. He was cool. He was real. He was cool. He was like an old soul. So listen, when I play music, he just chill and listen. He even throw a couple bars up there.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like I say, sit down. He sit down. Listen, I used to get accolades. I would bring this kid to a cookout. He would sit at the table and eat all his food and then go play. While the other kids left the food on the table. They was like, I forgot he was there. Right? Then I got my daughter, Kyla. She don't want to eat. She want to run around. She knocked the plate over. She hiding food in the little dressers. So everything that I thought I knew, I had to relearn. But ultimately, what it did, and it goes back to my main point, I had to evolve. I had to learn how to evolve. And what I also took into consideration, my man was touching on it, that it's not just about me being a father. I now have a wife, and I realized, my father was around, but I noticed as I got older, he really molded and shaped how I was. So me in the outside world, I conduct myself, I'm articulate, I operate with manners and morals, but I didn't learn a lot as far as relationship because my father was either always at work or my mother was at work because the way they balanced his schedule was he went to work during the day, she went to work overnight. So I never saw my father be affectionate with my mother. I saw him work hard, I saw him sit at the table and pay bills. So I came into my relationship going, all I got to do is this. And I didn't realize I had to cater to emotions.
Mm.
So the way I had to evolve was that I had to study. I had to do research for myself. I had to learn more. And then I realized
Make mistakes.
that I made a lot of mistakes because I realized for my daughters, one of the most vital principles was they need to see me love their mother or love a mother. They need to see me be a husband. They need to see me come home and lavish love on my woman, because if I don't teach them how they're supposed to be loved, they're gonna let the next dude treat them any old kind of way.
And also, for me, like somebody said, oh, don't argue in front of the kids, whatever. But for me and my wife understood it's okay to argue in front of our kids, but then it's okay for them to see us apologize.
Yeah,
to see us
yeah.
still,
You got to give them the full scope.
A lot of times you see on TV or see whatever, the arguments and the split up or whatever.
Yeah.
But we'll argue, we'll have our discussions, we'll get angry, but then they'll see us, when after the argument, her mother got her on my shoulder, and we're loving each other, whatever. Just let them know we still have to communicate. Communicate, because communication is key. Because we forgot as men. As I see this a lot around, a lot of men, they're afraid to show their emotions. They're afraid to communicate to their wife. They're afraid to be sensitive. Listen, my wife, I'll cry in a minute if it comes down to it. If I'm feeling that way, because then my kids will see that that's okay. That for a man to do that's okay, because it's so right. That's the strength of a man.
And another thing I had to learn, you have to watch what you say and how you say it. So when you talk to your kids, because remember, we are a molding pot. You can't talk down to your kid. You can't talk negative. One of the things that frustrates me the most is when I see parents cussing at their kids, calling them all type of things. Listen, it stirs something up inside of me. Listen, I'm almost on the verge of catching a case, because it's like, yo, bro, first of all, I don't know that kid, but that's still a kid. You don't call him little mother effer and all that. Like, yo, you are destroying.
You talking to a dude.
Yeah,
talking to that 4-year-old.
And so I learned. Come on. And so I learned even the way I talk to my wife, because sometimes, like you said, arguments is fine, but you can't let it get so heated to where you're saying anything. Because when you talk to that woman, your daughters are receiving that. Because that's their. And when she's talking to that man, the son is receiving that. And one of the most detrimental things that I chalk it up to youth. But one of the worst things that my oldest son mother did, and I think she learned from it now, is she would talk negatively about my son, but out the same mouth, she would say, "You look just like your father. You act just like your father. You shape just like your father." So every negative connotation that you address to me, you have just merged that with all of the other connotations. You are your father. So every piece of that's
the worst thing that a woman can do is to remind that child, man. Wait, but listen. So the worst thing, no sense. Like you said, my dad left, mom was dead, but every time mom always said, "You just like your father. You look just like your father." So because mom didn't like dad or had a problem with dad, he was a player, But what I'm saying,
but talk about what that does.
Psyche. No, really, because what it does and what it did was like my mom don't really care for me, for real. You understand? And I did have a problem with women growing up, So when I was coming out of that really did. You know what I mean? It really did. I had an issue with that.
So speak about the absence.
People on Facebook Live to talk loud.
Okay. So to speak about the absence of a father, I think that again, is multi-layered, but not being, I think that you lose that foundation. And I think that for our generation, for our community, one thing that's hidden and that it's a gift and a curse is aggression. Because as a man, it's okay to be aggressive. It's okay to have emotions and to say, you know what, I'm going to go over here because that's how I'm raised. And also, I think that when you don't know yourself and when you don't understand who you are, you tend to do things like you said. When you're talking to someone to say, you know what, I have to do whatever I have to do for my child. Now, when you don't have a father and you don't have a stable foundation, what you thinking is, I got to sell drugs. I got to do whatever I got to do for my child, but then you negate the fact that I'm going to be absent from my child. So now when your child grows up, they're going to think that it's okay to be aggressive. it's okay to, abandon